Hey guys, I'm Jody.
And I'm Justin.
And today we're going to do a mini review with 3 games. And these were all sent to us from Tabletop Tycoon. And the publisher actually for all of these is Starling Games. And Alien Frontiers, Everdell have been in my top 10 past couple years. Next time we do it, I'm not sure. You know, there might be some fluctuation. But they both have been in my top 10. So I'm excited to look at these because we have different variations of Everdell and we have a different edition of Alien Frontiers. So we're going to kind of go game by game, do a little overview, our thoughts, and a little mini review on each one.
Sounds like a plan.
So let's start off with My Little Everdell. So we have another game in the Everdell world, and it's My Little Everdell, and it is a lighter version and more streamlined.
Let's call it an intro version to
Everdell. Intro version to Everdell. So, and it's not, it's a thinner box here. So basically, it's a lot of similarities, but there's some differences, which we'll go over. But in this game, you have 4 rounds, and then each round you have a series of events you have to do. So first we roll out the dice, which I like the dice. They're cute little dice. So, dice per the player count. So in a 2-player game, you use 2 dice, so on. So you roll the dice, place them out there. There's different locations you can go to for where the dice are at.
That'll give you some variability in the resources that you'll get each round.
Yeah, you know, it might be a couple wild resources, a point token, different variations of things you can get. After that, everyone is going to activate their production cards. So you might have some. I know the last game we played, the first round, you didn't have any.
I had 0.
You had 0. So he didn't activate any. So if you have green cards, you activate those after you roll the dice. Then everyone is going to take turns placing a worker, and you may play a card as well. So you go back and forth 3 times, and then after that, you're going to have some cleanup, some reset, and then you're going to basically do that again. And it's 4 rounds. With this version, you're all in. There's not like different seasons where you might be in one player might be in one season, someone else might be in a different season. It's just a simplified round structure. Like everyone's always doing kind of the same thing. So in this game, you are still building up a tableau of cards, building up a city. So you're gonna have some places and critters, which they recommend you put on either side of the board, because there are different parade tokens that let you get points. Like for instance, one of them was, you can claim that parade token when you get 5 critters or 5 places or different combinations of cards, because they still have the basic card structure where you have the different color cards, the purple prosperity cards that give you points at the end of the game, the red destination cards,
the green production cards. All of those.
Yeah, blue cards, which give you ongoing abilities. Yeah. So the basic Everdell structure.
Slightly easier version.
More streamlined.
It goes quicker.
Yes. This is definitely a much faster game than just base Everdell.
Yeah, the rounds go fast, and you really kind of have to think through what you want to do each round.
So we've talked about it being more streamlined, and I think that goes with the locations as well. There's not as many locations. You have, places you can go to get resources, and then the dice. No bunch of other locations that you can do. Right. So that kind of makes it more streamlined as well. There's also a kid variant. Now, this is obviously a more streamlined, faster game, but even within this, there is another variant you can play with that kind of gives younger kids a jump start to kind of help them get going, to make it a little more fair, I guess. I don't know the age range of what kids need to play that variant versus what age they can actually play without the variant. we just got a kid of our own, and
she's not at any board game level at this point.
Yeah, she's 4.5 months at this point, so I don't know the level for the kids to play.
It's gonna depend on every kid, I think. So just kind of keep in mind what's the ability that your kid has to be able to interpret certain levels of rules and kind of sequencing of things and stuff like that.
Overall, what did you think about it?
Well, kind of like you were saying, for me, it's an easier version of Everdell, so you have to kind of compare it with Everdell itself, but it's still thoughtful and it still definitely holds the spirit of Everdell, and like you gotta plan and strategize. Well, this card's gonna help you do this, and you've got this card that'll give you these points at the end of the game if you have these other types of cards, and you're kind of still planning things out that way. It's certainly an easier way of getting into the world of Everdell, but it's still very thoughtful.
I could say this might be a good like filler game for gamers. You know, if you just want to get a quick game in, or maybe a good entry point for not as experienced gamers into Everdell. I think it's pretty simple, you know.
Because it is quick. It's quick too, so it's something to like get things warmed up on a game night or something like that, you know.
As a gamer, though, I wouldn't want to play this all the time. Obviously, I'm going to play more Everdell, so it's definitely
you don't need the warm up.
It's definitely more, you know, entry level, family weight, filler level, but definitely one that I'm going to keep and play with our daughter when she gets old enough, because this is super cute. I mean, you still have that cute artwork, guys. The cute little kid critters going around doing things.
It's still Everdell. The artwork is what it
gosh,
is,
and it's super cute still.
It's always going to be there. So, World of Everdell is always beautiful.
Yep. So that is our thoughts on My Little Everdell. I would say a keeper for us.
I think so too.
Next up, we got Alien Frontiers Edition X. Now, when I saw this announced, I was very excited because I love this game. It has been in my top 10, and this edition has like a lot of, if not all of the content. Expansion material, a bunch of it all in one place.
And I think it was also going to give her a good excuse to make me play it again.
Yeah. But we did not have any of the expansion material.
Sure.
So I was really excited because I love the base game, and I've always wanted to try some expansion material. So now we have, and it's all in one box.
Yeah.
So in this game, the frontier awaits. Alien Frontiers is a game of resource management and planetary development for 2 to 4 players. During the game, you will exploit orbital facilities and alien technology, building colony domes and strategic locations to control the newly discovered world. So this is a dice placement game. Hence one reason why it's been in my top 10 past years, because dice placement is
one of our favorite mechanisms.
It's gotta be my favorite mechanism. It's probably one of my favorite mechanisms. I love dice placement games. So you got a lot of dice placement and area control with the colonies in the center of the planet. You are trying to control different areas. Mm-hmm. Now, in this game, what you're doing is everyone's just going to take turns back and forth until pretty much the game is over. And on your turn, you're going to gather your fleet, or your ships, which are equivalent to dice in this game. So they're going to be out on the board, different locations. You're going to gather them all up. You're going to roll them, and then you're going to assign them. Mm-hmm. And there are multiple different zones that you can assign your dice to. Some areas are going to let you gather resources, possibly trade resources, possibly raid each other's goodies by stealing resources from other people or certain alien tech cards. Mm-hmm. I've used it a few times. I don't like it when it's used on me.
Of course not.
There are different areas different ways you can get your colonies out onto the planet. You can put a value 6 die on, I think it's called a terraforming station, and pay some resources, and that will let you instantly put a colony out, but you're going to lose that dice. Mm-hmm. There's a track that you can put your dice out, and then for each dice you put out, you can move your colony up a track, and when it gets to the end, you pay resources and you can put it out. Yep. If you get 3 of a kind, mm-hmm. which is one of my favorite places, and last game we played, you kept stealing that place.
I kept occupying.
Oh my gosh. So you can put 3 of a kind and pay some resources, put a colony out. So there's different ways to get your colonies out. And there's also ways to recruit more ships. Because you start with, oh gosh, I've forgotten, 3?
Start with 3.
3 dice.
You can get up to 6, I think.
Yes, and if you control a certain territory, it lets you take control of another dice as well. Mm-hmm. So in this game, you're going to be trying to get more dice, and then you also might be losing dice if you go to the terraforming station to place out different colonies. So there's a lot of different zones, and that's just the base game. In this game, the score, it changes back and forth. So at a given time, there's like a snapshot of where everyone is at currently. Because if you get points for placing out colonies and get points for controlling colonies, and in order to control, you have to have the most colonies in a certain territory. Now, so I might have points for controlling a certain territory, but if Justin moves in and takes control, then I will lose a point and he will gain a point. So the score actually fluctuates up and down. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it moves around quite a bit, so you never really know exactly how it's going to end up, because there's always this kind of like last minute things that could possibly happen, or sometimes we have some special cards, and that's more of an expansion thing where you've got these special cards that might give you an extra power or ability or two at the end of the game. It's like, oh, hey, surprise, and I overcome you by a couple of points or something.
But
like that.
You don't have to worry about that as much if you're way ahead during the game.
Well, so anyway, but the interesting thing about this game is it's not like divided into rounds or anything like that. So one person can play their stuff out, and then it can be occupying that space until their turn comes around again. Therefore, when you put something somewhere, everyone else that goes between that turn and your next turn, they can't go there.
Yeah, hence last game we played where you kept taking the colony constructor spot and blocking me.
So that turns into part of the strategy is like, okay, what do I need, but what does she need that I don't want her to have? And so there's definitely kind of that play that's going on there that's one thing that I do like about the game.
Yeah, so there's also alien tech cards, which I feel like sometimes in the past when I've played this game, I've kind of ignored those, but those are really important. Well, one, some of them give you straight up points, but two, they might let you modify dice rolls. So if you want to try to mitigate some of the luck factor, then you want to get some of those alien tech cards to help you modify dice rolls, and they just let you do certain abilities. So I think definitely don't ignore the alien tech cards. I've done that in the past and haven't done as well whenever I've done that.
I started using them more as well. I think the last time we played this game, I wasn't as gamer.
Yes, because it was before we got this copy. It had been years before you had played this game.
It was certainly more complex to me at that time.
Yeah.
So now that I've played game after game after game after game after game over the last few years, I kind of understand how those things kind of play into this kind of thing. So I was definitely more using those a little bit more too, and it was certainly helpful.
Yeah. Another thing I like about this game are whenever you take control of a territory, each territory has its own special bonus. So like It might make a discount to use this certain orbital facility on the board, might give you special abilities and extra dice. So I really love that of this game.
Or pay one less resource to put another colony out. Yeah.
And obviously, if you lose control of that territory, then you lose that tile bonus. And that bonus. So the other person might take it over, or if it's a tie in area control, then nobody gets it; just stays there. So I really like that about this game.
So there's that interesting tug of war over the different territories. That is kind of interesting, because it's like, I want to keep control, but do I need this over here? And then I don't know. It's just kind of like this back and forth of like give take, trying to figure out who's gonna win that particular territory.
Yeah, definitely. Now, so this edition X, comes with expansion material in it, which I was very excited about. So we got factions in here, agendas, and the Outer Belt expansions, and I like them all. So it's just more content for a game I like. So the factions, there are many faction boards that you can play with that basically give you a special ability as the owner, and there's also, it's like another orbital facility spot, like where people can go, another dice placement spot that people can use, but that there's a cost for it, of course. So it just adds more abilities. The agendas, like you were saying earlier, give you another way to score points. You can play it if you satisfy something and get points in during the game, or score points at the end of the game
if you've satisfied
the objective. And then there's the Outer Belt, which is a whole nother sideboard that has a whole nother deck of cards, and you can and more dice placement spots. So you can, if you satisfy the criteria, you can place dice there and get the card. You might be able to use it immediately or wait till next turn. It might give you resources, straight up points, just more things.
And I suggest that you use those things. If you've got the expansion material and you do that, then certainly be using those things because those things are very helpful. I usually don't like expansions. I usually don't. And if we get expansions, oftentimes I'm just playing the base part while she's playing with the expansions, and usually I get beat really bad. But
so okay, well, with that in mind, what did you think about all the expansions for this game?
So for this game, I actually thought that the expansions were self-explanatory enough that I could use them, number one, and therefore I felt like they did make the game better.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, more options.
Which I don't normally say.
I know, which is awesome. More options, more things to do, more things to consider, but that could also be a downfall because there can be a lot of downtime in this game. So if you want the game to potentially be even longer,
play with a lot of players.
Play with a lot of players and all the expansions. because what happens is you can't really do much planning ahead because on your turn you gather your dice, you roll them, and based off of your rolls and how you modify them, then you have to kind of determine what you want to do with them. And that's, everyone's turn. So you can't do a whole lot of planning ahead because you don't know what dice you're going to be rolling. And that's almost all your turn is placing your dice and using any card abilities you have. So there's not a whole lot of thinking ahead you can do. So there is a lot of downtime if you play with 3 or 4 players. So there still is downtime with 2 players, but it's obviously going to be a lot faster.
Yeah.
So I think for us, the sweet spot is 2-player.
I will never play again with more than 2.
Really?
Okay.
Whatever.
I can't.
If you can play with me with the expansions, I'll be happy.
Okay.
So overall, what do you think about the game overall? Like, you like it, not?
Well, I have to do a little bit of a comparison to when we played it before. Obviously, I've evolved as a gamer, therefore, I can appreciate a lot of the stuff in this game a lot more now. And with the expansion materials, I actually I do like it. It's not gonna go up onto my top whatever list, but I would certainly.
But you would play it with
certainly
me.
Play this, yes, at 2-player.
Well, that's okay. Hey, if I can get you to play this game with me, that makes me happy because I've always loved this game, and I like this edition of it because it just has everything in one box. And I can't help but recommend Alien Frontiers if you like dice placement games. This is so good. All right, so let's move on to EVERDELL FARSHORE. This is the country of Farshore. Through each season, you will be leading a crew of critter workers to build up a prosperous city and to explore the enchanting ocean beyond. You must plan your actions carefully in order to build and to sail, for only by adapting to the winds of change will you succeed. So once again, we have a version of EVERDELL. Mm-hmm. A lot of similarities to EVERDELL and a few differences. So in this game, you are going to be, just like EVERDELL, placing out a worker as an action. You can play a card as an action or prepare for season as an action. So we all go around the table taking turns doing one of those 3 things. In this game, you have some different things added, some new locations, which we both liked these locations. So you've got the docks, which allows you to discard up to 3 cards from your hand and then gain 1 of any resource for each card you discarded. So it's a nice way to get
trade-in cards to get
various resources that you need and then the combination that you need. Mm-hmm. Then there's also the lookout, which lets you discard any number of cards from your hand, then draw up to your hand limit from the deck or the bay. Mm-hmm. So this is a nice way, if you really don't like your hand of cards, this is an easy way to kind of get a new hand.
Kind of refresh a little bit.
Yeah, because I know in the base game of EVERDELL, it can be hard to...
I felt stuck a lot.
Yeah, you can be stuck in if the pair that you need is at the bottom of the deck, it's better to kind of get through the deck a little bit more as well. So we definitely like those locations. I thought this helped the game. There's also the dunes where you can go to claim map tiles. This is another way to get points. Basically, you're going to multiply the number on the map tile you have times the number of total map tiles you have, and that's going to be points at the end of the game that you can get. Mm-hmm. Then there are anchors in this game. You like those, right?
I'm a fan of the anchors because it allows you to place your anchor on a construction card that you already have, allowing you to then go and get a critter card of that same type. So if you put it on a construction card of the production card, then you can get a production critter for free. So I found that very useful. You only have three of them.
Three anchors in the
whole
game. Yeah, 3 anchors.
So you kind of have to be selective about when and how you use that. But I found that to be super helpful if you're like, I really need this to fulfill something else, and to get it for free was really cool.
Yeah, I love the anchors, and can I say how much I love the fact that they're metal?
Yeah.
I love it. The nice clank sound when you just, I love the anchors.
I mean, Everdell tends to do the production right with the components and all that kind of stuff.
So the resources for this one are different than the base game. You have mushrooms, which kind of are in the same zone as where the berries were. They're not as squishy as the berries, but they're a little more firm, but they do kind of have that texture. Mm-hmm. You got, I don't know what it's called. I call it algae because I think it might be just seaweed.
Algae
what
or
is
seaweed,
it? Yeah,
seaweed.
It's seaweed. Yeah. I just call it algae. I don't know why. But it's like the rubbery feeling stuff. Mm-hmm. It's kind of cool. You have sea stones, driftwood. Mm-hmm. So, similarities, but the metal anchors are really cool.
Cool little seashells.
Oh yeah, I forgot about those. You got seashells.
We didn't use those very much.
For point tokens. Yeah, I didn't use card abilities that gave me tons of points. Like I kind of took different routes of strategy.
Mm-hmm, me too.
I should have gotten more seashells. Seashells.
Seashells by the seashore.
Seashells. Another big difference with this game is you have your own little critter in a ship, and it's gonna go sailing along on the outskirts of Farshore. Mm-hmm. And you definitely have to pay attention to that because wherever your ship is at the end of the game, you get a buttload of points.
That number of points. So if you get way behind, that can be one way to gain or lose a lot compared to the person you're playing against.
Yeah. So there are, a lot of similarities with Everdell, but there are a few differences, like the new locations, the cards, the ships. I actually really liked the cards in this game. It just seemed simple to understand, like the text, the abilities, simple to understand. I don't know why, but for me, I feel like in the base game of Everdell, some of the cards just seem confusing, like to figure out the ability. I'm trying to remember some of, for example, like the dungeon, or I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I felt like the abilities on these were just more straightforward and easier to understand. That's just me.
And I didn't feel like I had any difficulty with reading the abilities on these, and that's something that I tend to complain about is text on cards, and it's like, okay. So I didn't really have any issues with that, I don't think. So
now, so this is part of the Edge of the Map series. So I'm guessing there's going to be 3 other versions. I think this is it's a part of a series. And if it's Edge of a Map, I mean, is there going to be 3 more games? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be more coming out. And I'm trying to figure out how many times they can do different variations of Everdell. Because if you like Everdell, if you have Everdell, I don't feel like this is a must-have. Like, you don't need this game because it's Everdell reskinned, with some differences, but I feel like there's enough differences to where if you're a big Everdell fan, you might want to get it. What do you think?
So here's my thought on it, because I like Everdell, but I think I kind of quickly got bored with it. Now there's a lot of expansion material that you can also do and things like that with Everdell, and we have it all, of course. So you can always kind of make it interesting. I actually thought if I chose to keep one version of Everdell, the base or this one, I would probably keep this one. Now, not taking into consideration all of the other expansions.
Right, but just strictly
if it was
game?
just strictly base game versus base game, I liked some of the features of this one better. I liked being able to trade in cards to get the same number of resources. I like being able to refresh your hand in certain ways. I liked the tiles that you could get that kind of it builds on itself almost exponentially. I found the ship going around.
Yeah.
All of those are all very different things compared to the other game that I felt made it better.
They definitely took some of the issues with Everdell that people complain about, with not having enough to go through or not going through the deck enough. So because you might be having your strategy to have to buy this pair for this card, but you're just not.
Second card never comes.
It's not shuffling through the deck enough. So they definitely kind of addressed some of those issues in this game.
Yeah.
And that's probably why you like it a little bit more.
I think it gives you I think this one tends to give you a lot more options. The old version kind of locks you in a way to where sometimes you don't feel like you have the ability to accomplish everything that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, so there's more ways to cycle through cards and get different variations of resources that you might need. Yeah, I definitely like it as well, and I do like the ship part as well. I mean, so. I don't think we went over how you move the ship up. So you might get cards that let you just straight up move your ship. But basically, whenever you play a card, if it matches some of the criteria of what's called the Windrose tiles,
which changes at every round.
Yeah, it changes. It's triggered when the last person prepares for season. Yeah, so those will change up. But if you play a card that satisfies both of them, then you get to move your ship up twice, right?
Yeah.
And then and then if it's just one of them, you get to move your ship up once.
And as you're moving around, you're also collecting the
treasure tiles
at the same time. So there's double kind of there's two different reasons to be moving along. And I felt, and that's another thing that you're considering when you're going and getting your cards is it fulfilling this particular
combination of Windrose
tiles so that you can then move this around and gain points. So you kind of keeping all of those things in mind. That I just feel like that variety and that made this game different enough that I think it's kind of set apart. Yes, it holds the spirit of the game and it's the same idea, but very different way of accomplishing it, in my opinion.
And you can gather quite a few treasure tiles because you or treasure tokens or whatever, because you're going to be moving out the ship a lot and passing them a lot and getting them. But what's cool with those is they can be a wild resource, or if you don't use it can be 2 points at the end of the game. So it's like there is that you can collect them, or you can use them for resources throughout the game. So it's a nice little variation. So overall, I like the game. I'll be curious to see how they can keep changing or tweaking it if this is going to be a new series, because I don't know how many times you can change up Everdell but keep it very much like Everdell. So I'll be curious to see what happens in the future, but I do like this game where I'm definitely going to keep it. We all know how much I love Everdell, so I'm definitely going to keep this, and metal anchors.
and I'm kind of the same way. It's like, what do they change next to keep the same spirit of the game but make it different enough that okay, I gotta go get that one too.
Yeah, it's gonna be in different zones. So this was more watery, and so this is gonna be next one might be in more foresty. I don't know. Who knows? But overall, I think we like this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. That is EVERDELL FARSHORE. Well, that is our thoughts on these 3 games, and I like them all, and I'm excited that we got them all. I'm really thankful to Tabletop Tycoon for sending these. These are all review copies, so I'm very excited about that. And so we might try this new
short reviews with multiple games in the same video. Let us know what you guys think about that.
Do you like more of this, mini review and instead of one game video review? I know whenever I watch other people's channels, I tend to like that better because it's usually shorter. Although I felt like we were actually talkative on some of these games.
Yeah, we went long on them, but it's. I think we were a little bit. I think we were a little bit more concise on it. So yeah, give us an idea of whether you guys thought that this was a good format or whatever.
And
also,
let us know what you think about these new versions of Everdell and Alien Frontiers, because these are all kind of based off of games that have already been out there. So let us know what you think. And guys, it's great to be back. I'm excited. I'm excited to get going again. It's been a little break since I was pregnant, not feeling good, and then we had a newborn.
Got a baby that's 4.5 months
But she's
old.
4.5 months now, so. But I'm ready to get going, and I'm ready to have her grow up in this world of board games. So, yeah, guys, let us know what you think. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.